himself, Stuart Robinson, the man behind the Swirl Sniff spit, and we've got Mr. David Bailey here, Ventilated Wines. Just a quick word on the Chardonnays tonight, fellas. Highlights, standouts. What do you reckon?
Look, just from the off, great lineup of Chardonnays, and as ever, we're just indebted to those people who've donated wines and sort of give their time and obviously sort of donated samples to us. Standouts for me, and I'm not going to justify them just purely for different reasons, but the De Bortley Yarra Valley Chardonnay is one. Eldridge Estate Chardonnay for me is another one too. I sort of say like that, it's sort of quite familiar yet not overdone. I like that as well. I also like the Fraser Gallop. Probably 3 different Chardonnays, 3 different wines, totally different from each other, but I like them each. And there's obviously the standout at the end, which is the Premier Cru Burgundy from Domaine Bouchard Père et Fils,
which if you can say that, you're doing well.
Yeah. Look, it's just on a different plane, and just that sort of intense, lingering finish, and just that sort of real mineral sort of edge to it. I just, love it, and I wish I could afford white Burgundy every day, but I can't. Thank you.
It's interesting because I'm going to contradict everything you've just said, pretty much.
Okay.
Look, brilliant lineup of Chardonnay, so I guess that's not a contradiction. But what is contradictory is the wines that I love from tonight, which are Stefano Lubiano Primavera. It's just such a triumph for modern Australian Chardonnay. It's just amazing. It's just got this line down the middle. I don't know. It's just amazing. I love it, and it's just another great wine from another great Australian producer. BK Wines, the Piccadilly Valley Chardonnay. It's such classic Adelaide Hills Chardonnay from a really talented producer, and I loved it. I thought it was generous and layered, but just somehow had such finesse about it. It was just amazing. Probably should mention the Kiwis. I guess the Felton Road is a real punter's wine.
Yep.
If that's okay.
Loving it. Loving the
it's really good Chardonnay. Don't get me wrong, but it's always like Chardonnay for beginners.
You got to start somewhere before you can start really appreciating the complexities and that kind of things you're talking about. You've got to start with something that appeals.
Yeah, do you mean sort of in terms of like sort of just clean, linear?
Yeah, I do.
Sort of respect?
I mean, it's clean. It's got. If you look at what Chardonnay should taste like, you can just go through and go, yep. So that's great. But for me, the Premier Cru should lead with its concentration. It's just like everything in that wine, the volume's turned up to 11, and whereas the Burgundy, which you loved, which I also loved, it's much more of an elegant wine, but equally as good. I can't really split them. They're really just. It's like comparing apples and oranges. They're just not the same. But, brilliant tasting. Yeah, brilliant.
So Australian Chardonnay.
I love Australian Chardonnay. Anyone who sort of still is in anything but Chardonnay camp needs to try some modern Australian Chardonnay from my perspective. I think what we've sort of tried to do with this tasting here is, not just focus on some good Australian Chardonnay, but also sort of, comparative Chardonnays from outside of Australia as well. Just really sort of try and focus on, for me, sort of where, I don't know, it wasn't just about me, but where sort of modern Australian or modern Chardonnay is really, and also just have some stellar examples in terms of Chablis and some sort of Premier Cru Burgundy into what can arguably sort of seen as Chardonnay's sort of birthplace basically, in terms of where it comes from as a stellar examples basically.
Brilliant.
Yeah, what we've seen is we haven't seen any wines from the Australian lineup that have been overblown, overripe, over-oaked, too much milk. What we've seen is really measured wines. The highlight of that is probably the Forest Hill estate from Mount Barker. It's just like a clenched fist. It's so tight, but you can really see the effort that's been put into that. So I think, the future's bright for Australian Chardonnay and for modern Australian Chardonnay.
say that compared to the Fraser Gallop, two sort of WA Chardonnays, very different in style, aren't they?
They are very different.
Different climates, different regions.
Yeah. Well, I guess the Forest Hill from Mount Marcus is quite a lot colder.
Cooler.
And you can really see it in that tight acid. It's just so tight. But it's tight in an exciting way. It makes you think, gee, if I put this in my cellar for 10 years, I'm going to have a cracking drink at the end of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what do you reckon? Chardonnay Day? Get into it?
Absolutely, mate. So, if you like Chard, don't like Chard, whatever, 26th of May, so it's a week on Thursday, wherever you are.
Just try it, you know.
Absolutely.
Come along, drink try a whole range of Chardonnays.
Yeah, absolutely. To get some good Chardonnay, you can spend anywhere from like $15 to probably $150 and find something you're going to like. There's such a diverse sort of range of styles. So you can have oak, unoak, crikey, just sort of crack some sort of fizz that's going to sort of give you something to toast to. There's so much you can do with Chardonnay from my perspective as a consumer, really.
Yep. Cheers.
So you'll be making Chardonnay soon, there, David?
I'm going to stick to Riesling.
Stick to Riesling.
I'll be drinking on Chardonnay Day. That's
Good stuff.
Cheers. What do you love about Chardonnay?
I love that Chardonnay is having a renaissance in Australia. It's been on the back blocks for far too many years, and I think now our producers, our winemakers, as we've discovered tonight, are investing more in the European cleaner style, and I think it's giving a whole new level to Chardonnay that we've been missing for 3 years. So.
And was there one that really stood out for you
Yeah,
tonight
I
amongst
love
the lineup?
the De Bordelais Reserve from 07, I think. I rate that very highly. And I didn't mind the BK, Piccadilly Valley. Oh no, it was the La Mer we tried it in the end. So,
Yep.
yeah, beautiful.
Brilliant.
Really rated it.
One of the night, I probably can't pick one. I'd probably go two. Man of War, because it's got that sort of that old school character that without it being overpowering, that hasn't been seen too much recently. So it's got nice big buttery characters, good oak, but nice acid to finish it off.
It really
with.
stood out amongst the lineup tonight,
Yeah.
didn't it? Yep.
And then the Di Bartoli Reserve Chardonnay as well, like that little funkiness, the wild yeast that came from it, the sort of as somebody else over here said, deli character. I didn't think of that to start off with, but yeah, I can see where he's coming from with picking it as the deli. It's the wild yeast coming out, and yeah, those would be the two that I'd pick. The third would be the BK, nice sweetness with nice floral tones as well, and other characters that filled out the sweetness.
So are you normally a Chardonnay drinker?
I drink anything. I drink anything. I don't have a preference.
Would this perhaps open your eyes to a different style of Chardonnay tonight?
I try where I work, I try as many different styles as I can. So basically, if it's different, I want to at least try it.
Yep.
So I'm already open to that aspect.
Awesome. Okay, so we've got Evan and Sean. Couple of wine lovers. Tonight we've been drinking Chardonnay.
Yep.
We've had a pretty fair selection of different styles of Chardonnay tonight. So, Sean, anything stand out to you
Chardonnay
tonight?
has its place in the world. I mean, I think right now we're going through that lean, austere stage, but a wine, even Chardonnays that are big, voluptuous, rich and round, still have their place as long as they're in balance. And we've tried some Chardonnays there which are absolute crackers. Evan?
I get paid to say my favourite Chardonnay is Fraser Gallop Estate Chardonnay from Willie Abra in Margaret River, but no. Aside from the one that I'm paid to
It
like,
did stand out. There was a lot of love for that tonight.
there was a very powerful wine from a hand-picked, hand-creamed single vineyard site. But no, I really liked the surprise tonight for me was the Forest Hill Estate Chardonnay from Mount Barker. I thought it was a great example of an elegant, cool climate, high altitude Chardonnay, and for me, out of the lot, it was probably had the most intriguing perfume. And I think that something that I look for in Chardonnay is a delicacy and power at the same time. So, as opposed to some of the Chardonnays that we tried today from warmer regions, which tended to be more upfront and then have nothing behind them, the ones that I liked tonight were the ones that were elegant, that had the line and trackled through the entire palette.
So, you guys working in the industry, selling wines, is it hard to sell? Is it hard to promote Chardonnays?
Not if you know what you're talking about. I think if you know what each Chardonnay tastes like, and the characters and the acidity levels and what people are eating.
And is it about trying to just help people try different styles of
Absolutely.
Chardonnay to broaden their palates, broaden their horizons a little bit?
I think when more and more we're seeing modern Australian style Chardonnays displaying a tighter, more mineral acid characteristic, and I think that appeals to most people's palates.
Yep.
But I find, for me, there's no better all-rounder in the wine world to match with food than oak Chardonnay. It's the most versatile out of all the wines that are produced anywhere in the world, whether it be a tight Chablis that's got a little bit of oak.
Or a Fraser Gulp Chardonnay from Margaret River.
You're just dying to say that one, aren't you?
You son. Look at you.
Hey, Mr. Two Glass.
Yes,
Mate, Chardonnays.
yes,
What's the word on Chardonnay tonight?
awesome.
Love it?
Yes, loving them. Would really like to
Marry
match them.
Mr. Fraser Gulp.
No, I'd really like to match them with lots of different foods. Very great different styles. All the way from to really lean, all the way up to nice buttery.
So for someone who thinks Chardonnay is just big, oak and flabby,
No,
what do you reckon?
no, all different expressions.
Get into it?
It's a clean palate. Get into it.
Get into the Chardonnay?
Get into the Chardonnay. I've got a Chard on for Chardonnay.
Any standouts for you tonight?
Yeah, there's quite a few standouts tonight.
Yeah, of course there is.
I love my Chardonnays, and I'm so glad that they're finally coming back into fashion again, so to speak. Not that they ever really went out in the real trendy world. Chardonnay, probably my favourite of the night was actually one that was maybe not so typical. It was the Forest Hill Estate Chardonnay from Mount Barker. I just absolutely loved the purity of fruit on that little puppy, and maybe it's the vine age, it could be the cool climate and altitude, but the Forest Hill Estate was definitely my favourite. Very pure, very focused. The acid and fruit balance on it was just racy, focused, very seductive, and kind of felt like a bit of a punch in the mouth at first, but I think it'll age really well, and I'm definitely going to pick some of that up.
Would you say that a lot of people who have sort of abandoned Chardonnay based on sort of some pretty bad experiences in the past would be really surprised to taste something like that?
Absolutely, and I think that actually tasting through a lot of the New World Chardonnays that we had today, we had, Tasmania, which had that same real minerality, beautiful citrus flavours, purity of fruit, not a lot of oak on it, but quite complex still on the palate. The de Bordelais Reserve Chardonnay, was very funky, quite interesting, but still more of those citrusy mineral flavours. The Eldridge was more Mornington, nice and ripe. The BK Wines was actually probably one of my favourites, and very Adelaide Hills in character, and I just loved how floral it was. It had that beautiful, pretty chamomile flavours that reminded me of really good Premier Cru and Grand Cru Chablis as well. The Fraser Gallop, I think that's just a powerful, powerful wine.
I'll just leave a couple of menus here, just in case anybody wants to have a little nibble.
Gracias.
And yeah, the Fraser Gallop definitely was one to lay down, put away. But I think most of the wines tonight were actually quite subdued in character, and they weren't those big, blousy, fat, wines that we kind of generally think of Chardonnay to be. I think a lot of Sauvignon Blanc drinkers would probably really enjoy Chardonnay now because it's beautiful, floral, citrus. It's very easy to get your head around. It goes with most of the foods that we eat in Australia as well. My other favourite was actually the Christian Moreau Premier Cru, the 2009. I just had beautiful, again, just really beautiful focus. Nice, simple fruit flavours, nice green apple, and it had that nice kind of, yogurty character from the mallow. And then we had the 06 Bone Premier Cru de Chateau from Bouchard, and that was looking very much much like an 06 Burgundy village wine. It was getting quite developed and showing some really nice ripeness there. But I think for favourites, I'm definitely going back to Mount Barker, WA, and I think they're much more punter wines.
Nice.
Yeah, they're delicious. Love Chardonnay.
Brilliant. Cheers, Free Bars.